Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks again for being here this week on the channel. So this week we are going to be taking a look at my veggie garden and my herbs, since a lot of you have been asking what I'm growing. So this is what the garden looked on May 2nd, pretty brutal after the long winter, but basically we just cleaned it out and dug it through really nicely in preparation for the veggie garden. And this is the stinging nettle that comes back every year, so I'm really fortunate that it was already here when I bought the house, and he was just little on May 2nd, but he was growing. Okay, so look at the difference of the stinging nettle on May 12th, growing quite a bit, so that's wonderful. It's absolutely huge right now, but yeah, it grew really quickly and it looked really good, so I'm really fortunate for that. So that's the update on that. Stinging nettle is good for many different uses. I do have a video of how I use it and why I use it, so you can go back and take a look at that if you want to. I do use stinging nettle quite often more for a tea, but you could saute it with garlic the way you do with other greens. As long as you're cooking it down, it's safe to eat. So you can add it to soups. A lot of people like to add it to soup as well. So there are many ways you can use stinging nettle in your diet and receive all the health benefits. So this is the garden now on May 21st. We decided to put the veggies in at that time, and it is a little iffy because of where we live in Toronto. Sometimes it could be a little bit too early. Might be better to wait one more week, but we decided to just hope for the best and get all the veggies in. That way we can start reaping the benefits sooner. So we did expand that garden a little bit bigger. We are urban living, but we are fortunate to have our own backyard and it's closed off, so we utilize all that space mostly for the veggies. Okay guys, so this is what it currently looks like June 13th. The stinging nettle has been cut down a couple of times and it's still like a huge bush. Remember back in the very first clip it was really tiny. Well, he sure has grown a lot, but yeah, he's kind of taken over, so I have cut quite a bit here and there to use, and then I'm going to be using all of it this week. I'm going to cut everything down so that I can dry it out, because this is the perfect time to be harvesting it. It's still in the spring before summer hits, which we're getting really close to that, and the weather is getting quite hot again. So when I'm talking about maximizing space, I'm also using container gardening because it's really important to get all that extra veg and the herbs growing in as many possible places in the garden. So I can't use up the whole garden as, a ground garden, because I do need a walking space for the dog. I do like sitting areas to sit in the backyard. So I'm going to use containers all around the other side of the property so that I can maximize my veggie and herb growth for the year. So this stinging nettle in a past video, I don't know if you guys remember, but was really tiny and ended up in this container. It was a volunteer, got there on their own, and so I decided to leave it just to test it out to see if the stinging nettle would grow in the container, and obviously it grew really well. So I have basil in many different containers in the backyard. This is one of them, so that if one doesn't do very well, I'm sure the other ones will. And I do harvest a lot of it, so I do need quite a bit. So we do plant a lot of kale, and I have all of the rest of these containers full of kale only, just because we go through so much of it. We use it for soups, we use it for different salads. We also make a lot of juice and smoothies, so we go through a lot of kale, and because the prices of kale have skyrocketed, I've decided to plant a lot more than I normally do, and I also have a second garden at my dad's house, which is loaded with kale as well. If you guys want, I can show you that garden as well in another video. And then I'm utilizing these really big containers. I've done kale in the past and peppers in the past in these huge containers, but I'm doing strawberries right now and also my jalapeno peppers in these containers. So This is a really nice size container. My strawberries are going to have a lot of room to expand and grow out, so I thought that this one would work perfectly, and they are growing really nicely. I'm super happy. I'm seeing some of the little strawberries starting to show up, so very exciting. And then we have the jalapeno peppers growing in the next containers over. I do have one that's empty, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that one, but I might decide to plant something in that one as well. And yeah, so that's what I mean. I'm utilizing all the space that I have. I have these containers. I'm going to reuse them and figure out another thing that I can grow in them. And that way, you know, I still have space to have a sitting area in the backyard, and the dog has plenty of room. And we can maximize this little urban backyard to the fullest, and everything grows really nicely, even in the containers. And of course, King wants to make an appearance in the video. He's our American Bulldog. He's my little baby. And anyway, going on to more of the containers, I have more basil. This is purple basil. Some people call it Thai basil, but whatever, purple basil. It just has a slight different taste. It's a little bit stronger, I find. I really like it, so I also always look for that. So now we're going back to the big garden, and I have cucumbers growing, and I'll be adding another stick on the top. That way they have plenty of room to grow upwards. And hopefully they do well. So even though we're in Toronto, a lot of people have raccoon problems. So far we've been really fortunate here since the apple tree died and it had to go. That's pretty much where they wanted to sit, so I haven't had any issues, so hopefully everything grows well. And of course, like we talked about, lots and lots of kale. I did put in an abundance, so hopefully everything grows really well and we don't have any issues this year. So I'm not sure what they're called, but last year in Toronto and surrounding areas, everyone basically either lost their kale or they were having a really hard time, and everybody was complaining about these little green caterpillars that were destroying everything. So I hope this year that is not the case, because it did hit me towards the end of my crops and that was kind of devastating. So we have tomatoes, of course, different types of tomatoes. I have Roma tomatoes, cherry tomatoes. I do have, I think, one hothouse tomato. So I just like to mix it up. That way we have a variety to use. The kids prefer the cherry tomatoes, so I always make sure I have a variety of those in there. And that's pretty much it. Tomatoes always grow really, really well. I never have an issue with growing tomatoes. You can also grow tomatoes in a planter if you needed to, or, you know, depending on where you live. So that's another one that's pretty easy to grow in container gardening, just so you know. So I'm also growing some lettuce. It's growing really, really well. I cannot wait till I can start harvesting these. I'm going to let them grow a little bit bigger before I start touching them, but they're doing really well, so I'm really happy. And I do add wood chips to my garden just because I find that it holds in the moisture a lot better and I don't have to water my garden as much. And also, it's a lot easier to step on the wood chips when you're harvesting your veggies versus stepping into the soil. So I always add some natural wood chips, and it is quite a bit of work to soak them and, you know, prep them and get them into the garden. But I feel like it is so much benefit versus all the work. So I always put my wood chips in the garden all the time, even if it's just the walkways between the veggies, so that I can get in and out easy and not destroy any of my crops and get all muddy. So I'm also growing some beans. Green beans are really, you know, pretty easy to grow as well, but you do need more space for that. I have done beans in a large container and let them grow up, and they actually worked really well. But this year, since we had the space, I decided to line this side of the garden and put the beans there, and they're flowering. They're doing their thing. They're doing really, really well. I know other people that have beans in their garden are saying that theirs are not looking like mine, so I guess I'm pretty lucky. They are growing fantastic. So yeah, those are all beans, and we kind of just put them up with like sticks and I put this gardening string up so that they have something to attach to, and then they can grow upwards and have something to lean on. So now going back to the herbs other than basil, we have parsley growing, and I do have some more at the second garden at my dad's house. So I did have cilantro that was transplanted. It was growing on my windowsill in this little pot, but it didn't continue growing. I think it died. It rained a lot. I think it was just bad timing and it got kind of washed away. So the bright side of this is that I do have some oregano growing in here from, I guess, last year. So that's pretty good. I love oregano, so I'm happy with that. And I thought my little avocado plant was dead, but then I brought him outside and he's just thriving, living his best life out there now. And then back here I have more lemon balm. So I did have lemon balm that was growing in the garden just on its own. I didn't plant it, but then this year it disappeared. I don't know what the heck happened. So I decided to replant the lemon balm. And here's more basil in another container that I had that was extra. This was just transplanted from indoors, and so far it's doing okay. And then I have my hibiscus, because eventually I would like to have some hibiscus tea, but he's little and he's going to take a long time, but he's in there. And then lavender, I love harvesting lavender. I also use lavender for tea. I use it for a variety of different things, and they just smell so amazing when you harvest them and bring them into the house. So I have quite a bit of lavender. This is English lavender, and I have another variety in my front garden. So this is definitely my favorite variety of lavender. I had a house once that I planted every kind of lavender that I could possibly find, and they were all wonderful, but I really like the English lavender. The smell is so nice, and I can use it for so many different things. And it's just, I don't know, it's so calming, and this is probably my favorite thing to always have in the garden. And like I said, I have it in the front garden as well, so that I have double to harvest at the end of the growing season. And here's more lemon balm. I decided to put some in a container just in case the same thing happens and it disappears. It will always come back in this really large container. And then of course, like I showed you, I have it in the actual garden. Hopefully it takes over that corner of my garden. And yeah, I really like lemon balm. I use it for tea. It is absolutely delicious, kind of like mint and lemon mixed together. Really nice. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do on this end of the garden, but we did plant some lilac. I can't wait till, you know, this takes full effect and we have that lovely smell in the backyard. I love lilac. So yeah, I'm not sure what else I'm going to do back here, but so far we have them in, and then we'll figure it out. So thanks so much for watching, guys. This is it. This is the end of the video. Thank you for being here again this week. Thank you for the support and the love on the channel as always. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so you don't miss any upcoming content. And I will be continuing to show you guys how the garden is growing and, you know, the trials and tribulations, because not everything works out perfectly. There are going to be some crops that don't work out great, but overall I've been very fortunate with my gardening that I haven't had very many negative things happen. So far so good, and I hope that this year will continue like that. So let me know what other types of videos you would like to see, and I will get working on those as well. We will be traveling this year, so you guys are going to spend a good portion of the summer in Portugal with me. Hopefully, as long as all my camera gear passes through and nothing breaks, we're good to go, and I'll be able to share that trip with you. And if not, I can always upload later as long as I get the footage. But we are going to be in Portugal for most of the summer, so yeah, I will take you guys along with me on that trip. And yeah, let me know what other videos you want to see. Take care, everyone, and I will see you in the next video.